Oops, I'll turn that off. Ah, crap, I don't want to do that. Oh well, that's gonna crap it anyway. So let's go back to it whenever I get done with this anyway. So, hey everyone, this is GeoWill from Left Hand Productions Squared, and we're here today to start our 12th developers log for Space Crusade / Odyssian Void. This will be the last time that I refer to the game as Space Crusade. I'm just doing it now because, as an easing tactic, if you will, to get and ease people into hearing the game referred to as Odyssian Void. By now I should have had all the other media and stuff branded to Odyssian Void. All the icons, banners, and stuff on ModDB, and gotten up our Twitter and Facebook page for the game too. So it should be good to go in terms of that. I should have also by now gotten the introduction trailer put up on the YouTube channel, which will also have a lot of information about the game. So, what we're going to be talking about today is going to be not very heavy material. We're not going to be talking about coding or about music or anything like that. We're going to be talking about just about ideas and various stuff therein. Let's see, this thing up here for later on. And so what we're going to be talking about is actually something that I'm going to be working on throughout next couple of weeks, which is the restructuring of the market menu. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I'm going to go through and redo the way the market menu is set up right now anyway, and I figured that why not, while I'm doing this, structure it in a way that'll be most representative of the market menu as it will appear in the full version of the game. So from 1.0 onward. That said, there are going to be a lot of things that we'll talk about today that are not going to be present in the text version of the game. But some of them will, and I'll mention what they'll be when we get to them. There's also going to be a lot of content that may be unfamiliar to you if you haven't watched the introduction trailer. So if you haven't watched it yet, or if it's not up yet, go watch it, or watch it whenever I finally get it released and upload to YouTube. And that'll kind of shed some light on some of the stuff we'll be talking about today. So, I guess first things first. Let's go ahead and get into the market menu here. So the market menu is going to be broken down into different tiers now, instead of having it be how it's set up currently, which is I think by class and item type or whatever. It's a really stupid S9 system. It's going to be broken down pretty simply. We're going to have the, let me see, I'll find the page I put this thing on. So you're going to have the, there it is, the main you're going to have like a thing like this. It'll essentially be the market menu, but you'll have 4 different options. Ship, equipment, or rather I guess in order would be equipment, miscellaneous, ships, and skills. From there you'll break down the individual components of those groups, and the sorting by ship class or planet type will happen at the very end, before you get to the actual items themselves. The items themselves will have the information and also whether you buy or sell that item. So, for example, there's something we don't have here, which is resources. How stupid of me. I need to add those in while we're talking here. So what'll happen is you'll, say you wanted to sell some ore or something. So what you would do is you go to the market menu, then you would click on miscellaneous, and then on resources, which I'm going to add right now. I'll be looking on the, that's not too bad, no, 300 megs of RAM, so every once in a while you have to shut down and restart Smart Relay Steady with Vista, or Vista, Windows 7 64-bit, because this thing just eats RAM like crazy. I don't know if it's a memory leak or what. It might just be this PowerPoint presentation format that they use for this. So I'm going to add an element. Oh, we want a sub-element, damn you. Resources. Okay, it's going to go above because R comes before S in pretty much all English language. So another sub-element, I'm going to go or, I will say raw or. Well, no, I guess or works, I just didn't have to say raw or. So or, and then sub-element resources. Okay, so or, sub-element, carboid, carboid, Kesogen, methics, and is it methics or mythics? I think it's methics. Methics, yeah. And Hyrax. Alright, so let's go ahead and fix the border on that one. And on this one. Okay, and then resources. Sub 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, let's see, alphabetical order here. Try and do this in my head. D, DI, DR, so diamonds and draconic. L, P, so L, so lithium. M, I don't think there's any M's. R, N, but there's an N. I'm missing an I from lithium. Oops, let's see, then, so N, PLA, so platinum, then plutonium, and then uranium. Except I'm missing R, which should go here. Bollocks. So I got one extra. That still works out pretty well though. So, so let's say you wanted to sell some Pyrex to a station or something. You go into the market menu to miscellaneous resources, or then you can find the ore type, and then that'll break down and further into groups of into ore classes or stages, I guess. So let's see. Oh, come on, you piece of. We'll add this to all these. Then do the same on this. That anyway. Alright. And so you choose your ore type and then the specific stage of the ore, and then you'd sell the ore, or you could buy the ore. So that's how it would work. To sell things like that. So that's essentially how that's going to be situated. And the full version of the game will have this kind of a menu. It'll kind of be like on EVE Online. You'll have a menu over here, scrollable menu, that'll have a couple options like for enabling searching for items based on the number of jumps, depending on some skills you have. Then over on this side you'll have a listing, once you get down to a specific type of item, a listing of the different types of ore, or different types of items, individual items. So like you'll have, when you get down to Methics Miner, for example, you'd have a listing of all the, a page that will list, have the image of Methics on it, the name, the description, the current price at the station you're at, the regional price, and what the difference between the two is, and then like a button to buy or sell. And you also have another button that'll allow you to see market information on the item, if you have some skills trained. So it'll be slightly like EVE Online in terms of the actual look of the UI for the market menu, but it will be a little bit different in function because there'll be more skill-related kind of things that you'll have to deal with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through and talk about the individual groups of how these break down, the different topics, like talk about drones, talk about skills and whatnot. It's going to be a fairly long video, at least 2 hours long, if not 2.5 hours. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first section we have is equipment. Equipment will break down into ammunition, drones, mining, modules, planetary equipment, rigs, and weapons. For ammunition, you have essentially right now just 2 categories. Missiles, which are going to be removed as weapons and put in as ammunition, and we'll be putting launchers in as the weapons for missiles. And then railgun material blocks. Missiles will be done by class. So they'll have the listing of the ship classes, and then you choose the ship class you want to buy the missile for, and then you can buy whatever specific missile you want. Now there's a little bit of a backstory behind the railgun material blocks, and I'll probably mention the lore about this in another video as well. I'll explain that later on in the end of the video when we start doing the outro. But the lore behind this is that this is actually the 3rd iteration of the ammunition system for railguns. Back when railguns were first created, the ammunition system was a lot more like EVE Online, where you have containers of ammo canisters, and those canisters are loaded into, actually the containers loaded into the weapon, and the railgun has some mechanisms inside that takes up the ammo canisters from that container and loads them into the weapon. The first iteration of this, what you would do is you load the container in. Once it was empty, the container would be jettisoned out of a port on the side of the ship, and then a new canister would be loaded in. Now, this contributed to a lot of cost for ammunition creation. So, the second evolution of the ammo system for railguns was that the containers would be sent back out into the ship to be removed so they can be recycled or reused. Again, this was still very costly, and it wasn't just because of that whole thing, but it's really a whole kind of a domino effect that was kind of rampaging through the ammunition and railgun ammunition and railgun industries. And it was really kind of a confluence of 3 different things that was causing all the problems for the industry, and causing all the costs. The first was that ammunition was very expensive because you could have weapons that had varying sizes of calibers of barrels, even in the same ship class. So you could have like a frigate railgun that had a 15mm barrel and another one that had maybe 19mm. So you had to make an ammunition for all the different calibers of weapons that were available, and that meant that there may be some weapons that are, exclusively have a size of ammunition made for them because they're a specialty weapon or something, and that really increases the costs exponentially. Tied into that, the fact that the ammunition containers themselves originally were just jettisoned out into space and had to be remanufactured, and then slightly, a little more efficiently, which brought down the cost a little bit, was when they started reusing the containers. But the major reason why the railgun industry was suffering is because it was just way too expensive to own and maintain a railgun. This is because all the mechanisms inside of the railgun, in order to keep the railguns at a certain size limitation, the mechanisms couldn't be very robust or very strong. They are very able to be worn down real easily, and were really prone to breaking. And because of this, the average consumer could not afford a railgun weapon on a ship, even just one. And pretty soon the railgun industry was solely proprietary, because that's the owner of the establishments. That proprietor is an owner of an establishment, where servicing, as we'll say, mainly governmental agencies, military, empires, militaries, militias, groups that had a lot of disposable money because, for one reason or another, large corporations. And so it was really starting to bring down the profits for um, the railgun industry, to the point to where the ammunition industry for railguns actually collapsed, pretty much. There's only two major companies out of the original 120 that made it all the way to the end of the well, I guess the beginning of the third what would you call it? Not version or evolution. Well, maybe evolution, I guess. Third evolution of the railgun ammunition system. And only about 4 or 5 railgun manufacturers actually were still in business as well. About 90% of both industries had gone bankrupt. It also had gone from about a 175 billion Zarn industry to a month industry to about 28 billion Zarn a month industry. So it really shrunk and collapsed in on itself. And it was at the very end of the height of the implosion, I guess we could say, that two railgun companies, the two largest companies, Volkson and Lansing, got together and said, well, you know what, we're going to work together to fix this problem. And so they took their R&D divisions and said, we're not going to pay you until, we're going to put you in this room, and we're not going to pay you until you figure out how to fix this. Which in fact would have been what would happen anyway, because both companies would have gone bankrupt, and they wouldn't have gotten paid. So it took them about a decade, 10 years, to come up with a system that would work and solve all the issues that were plaguing the railgun industry. There were a lot of failures, a lot of high-tension situations, a lot of frustration, but eventually they figured out a way to deal with all the problems that were causing the industry to suffer. And that's how the material block system came into being. So the way that the system operates is that it doesn't matter what caliber the weapon is, as long as the material block chamber that you put the material blocks into is a standard size, which is mandated by the IGTC these days. You can put any kind of ammunition into any weapon, no matter the caliber, and it will be it'll work. Because the way that it works is that the ammunition material block that's put into the railgun will be superheated and liquefied. The more pure material that sinks to the bottom will be siphoned off from that block, and then the block is cooled and resolidified. The ammo that's pulled off is put into the material that's pulled off is put into the barrel and solidified into an ammunition cartridge, and then all the different things are put into it. So, technologies, warheads, what have you. Things like for better tracking of targets, or better, certain things to cause certain after effects, like armor piercing, or napalm effects, or shield disruptors, kind of thing. That kind of stuff can be put into the ammunition cartridge, and then the cartridge is fired. So this solves not only the mechanisms problem, not only the mechanisms breaking down problem, solved not only the specialty ammunition issue and the fact that you would have to have so many different types of ammunition if you have different types of railguns at different calibers. And not only did it solve the ammunition costs issue, but it also allowed for a more innovative way to deal with the ammunition itself, because now, instead of having specialty ammunition that has to be made and have like overrun costs and things like that at the factory, you can actually have everything that needs to be done in the barrel. So all the ammunition blocks that are supplied are material blocks are all stock standard, whatever. They're all just plain material. So anybody that has the processes to make those material blocks can sell them, and anybody can buy them and stick them into their gun and they'll work. So it's a very way more efficient system, way more economical system, and very easy to maintain. These changes literally saved the industry overnight. It returned within, well, it didn't return instantly, but about 5 months down the line, the industry was back even stronger than it was originally. It was up to within a year of introduction of this new material, the new ammo system, the industry was back up to being like about double what it was before. So it was about like 559 billion Zarna a month industry. So it was really a revolutionary kind of breakthrough that really allowed the um, streamlining of the railgun, of railgun use and manufacturing of ammunition, and saved the consumer base for it. Really, that's my horrible, long, complicated, confuzzling explanation of how this railgun material blocks thing works. I guess I'll mention it now. Every so often I'll be putting up videos on the YouTube channel that I'll be like dealing with the lore, kind of like the Skyrim lore series. And so look up for the one about the railgun material blocks thing, because I'll have a much better crafted, more coherent, and much more succinct version of what I just rambled on about for about, I don't know, what, 8 minutes or something. But that's all for ammunition, thank God. So we're on to drones, another large section. Drones are broken down into 5 groups: electronic warfare drones, electronic warfare. So, electronic warfare drones are essentially kind of a mobile way to deal with electronic warfare without having to use a module. So they cost less than electronic warfare modules. They're mobile, and but the downside of that is that they're also weaker. So, for example, if you're trying to use a countermeasure drone against a warfare module, it's not going to work. On the flip side, if your enemy has a countermeasure module, your warfare drones aren't going to do anything either. On the other side of that, though, you could have either be on the other side of either of those, and then have the advantage that way. So let's talk about the what all these drones do and the kind of the lore behind them a little bit. It won't be as long and rambling as the railgun material ammo thing, but just kind of go into how they work a bit. So you have the cloak jammers, the hackers, the sensor jammers, targeting jammers, and warp scramblers. So cloak jammers essentially will allow you to detect cloaked ships. Every so often they'll show up on your radar, or you'll have some kind of visual thing that you can see where the cloaked ship is at. Now it works by using a tachyon field that's emitted from the drone itself and covers a certain area of space. So it's kind of like the if you ever watched Star Trek Next Generation, the episode where the Federation's forming that tachyon net sensor grid type of thing to detect the Romulan ships that are trying to send supplies to the Duras family during the Klingon Civil War. Kind of like that, except without having to have the actual net. It's just a sphere of tachyons that's created. Hackers are kind of a special type of drone. The operation of them relies on several different skills that that'll add later on. I don't have them created just yet, so but they'll determine what you can and can't do with the drones. Hacker drones do not affect an area of influence. They're actually targeted attack drones, so they have to target onto an enemy ship before they can do anything. And what you'll be able to do with these is pretty extensive. Without the skills, you'll only be able to disable their shields and disable their sublight engines. But once you have these skill trained up, you'll also be able to mess around with their sensors or shut down their sensors. You'll be able to turn off their weapons tracking systems. You'll be able to disable their warp drives. You'll be able to set up self-destruct sequences. You'll be able to shut down life support. You'll be able to take control of the ships and turn them on their allies. You'll be able to do all kinds of things with hacker drones, but they'll be really expensive, and in order to do all those different things, you'll have to learn several different skills, which will take a while to learn. But once you do know the skills, you can use hacker drones to do all kinds of weird and crazy things. Like, for example, maybe you use some sensor jammers so that the enemy ship that you're following doesn't detect you. So you're following behind them, and you send out one hacker drone. That hacker drone disables the enemy's shields. You send another hacker drone, and that drone takes control of the ship. And then you tell the ship to fly itself into an asteroid. So you can do that kind of thing with it. Or you can have the hacker drone that you send out, the second one, shut down the life support so you can completely salvage the ship without having to destroy it. There's lots of different scenarios and situations you can get into with these. Sensor jammers essentially radiate a sensor chaff, if you will, and it kind of makes the sensor systems detect many more targets than there actually are. That's how they'll work in the first-person aspect against you on the sensor kind of radar thing you have. In the third-person view, using a ship, I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe it would create false targets or something that you would lock onto and try to fire at, and there wouldn't be anything there, maybe like holograms or something. I'll have to think about that. But it works by essentially overloading the sensors and feeding it false information. Targeting jammers does pretty much the same thing. It feeds false information to the weapon targeting systems to cause them to take longer to lock onto target, and also not allow them to lock onto as many targets. And warp scramblers, the final one, they made a kind of radiation field that hampers the development of stable warp fields. So when these are active, you'll be able to keep enemy ships from jumping into warp to escape as quickly. Of course, these can also be used against you, so that's the other side of things. So you have to be, it could be a very interesting situation if you come up against an enemy that has hacker drones, warp scramblers, and sensor jammers, because they could quite easily screw you over if you're not careful. So, EWCM drones. When fighting against somebody that has electronic warfare drones, you can use these to slightly mitigate the effects of those drones, but not completely eradicate those effects. So cloak boosters will allow your ship to remain cloaked, or allow an enemy ship to remain cloaked for a little bit longer between sensor detections. EDDs, electronic defense drones, will operate by, well, how the cloak boosters work is they create a field of radiation that will reflect a certain amount of the tachyon pulses that the jammers will send out. Anyway, the EDDs create a kind of a electronic sensor net around your ship that or rather maybe like a firewall net or something, that the hacker drones have to get through to get to your systems on your ship. And this will slow them down a bit so that they don't complete their objectives quite as fast. Or conversely, your hacker drone doesn't complete its task as fast. Sensor modulators allow your sensors to regain some use. It's not going to be very, very much a kind of a fix for if you're getting hit by a sensor jammer drone, but it will allow you to cut through some of the interference, some of the false readings, not all of them. And that works by just putting out sensor drones that are outside of the range of influence of the other drones, of the jamming drones that the enemy is using, and relays back more accurate information to your ship. Same thing with targeting repeaters, it's the same process. You send out these and they give you more accurate information about the battlefield from outside of the sphere of influence of the jammer. And for the warp stabilizers, the drones, or drones if you want to have a larger area, will emit a certain type of radiation that will, or not radiation, but a certain type of energy field or something. I'll have to look it up online and see what they call it on Star Trek, that enables more quick forming of stabilized warp fields. But the downside of this is that using these, it's a one-time thing. Because once you jump to warp, you'll have to leave the drones there at the battlefield. And most of the time they're going to be destroyed. Sometimes they may be left alone, but usually they'll be destroyed and you'll just have to take it as a loss for being able to get out of the situation more quickly. and possibly with your life. So that's it for EWCM drones. On to military drones. Military drones are broken down into 4 different sets: recon, scout, war, and tank drones. Recon drones are just drones that you can use to enhance your sensor range. What you do is you send them out in front of your ship, or all around your ship where your sensors go to end at, sensor range ends at, and then those recon drones will add another bit of area to your sensor range. These drones can be destroyed. Well, they all can be destroyed, but if these drones are destroyed, you'll lose your sight in that area of the area of space where that drone was at. And you can use them in certain situations, like if you expect there's an ambush, maybe you send them out in a kind of a flanking pattern to see if there's any enemy ships kind of waiting behind asteroids, or just waiting outside of your sensor range to come in and screw you over. Again, though, if there are sensor jammers being used, these can also relay false readings. Like, for example, let's say you have an enemy ship that's kind of stalking you, and you send a drone because you suspect as much. And the drone reports back there's about 10 enemy ships. So you start freaking out or something and try to get away. And while you're trying to do that, this one single ship comes up behind you and like takes out your engines or something. That's like something that could happen in the game when using recon drones. Now, scout drones are a little bit different. These are more of a passive type of drone. I guess recons are too, but these are not even used in battle. Scout drones are used to display up-to-date information on the map for systems. And what information they display depends on where they're at. In order to see all the information about a system, we'll have to have a scout drone at a jump gate, one at each planet and one at each asteroid field, or asteroid belt, in order to see all the different information in real time about the system. There's also going to be a skill that'll take a long time to train up, but that will take the place of these, and you'll see all the information that you can get from a scout drone without having to leave, dozens of them in the system. But what the scout drones can show you, if you leave them by a jump gate, they'll be able to show you the current, really anywhere in the system for this one. They'll be able to show you the current security rating for the planet. If you leave them near a jump gate, though, you'll be able to also see the amount of traffic that's coming through the gate and how that differs from the previous month. So if there's some reason an uptick in traffic, you'll be able to see, okay, well, the last month that the drone was there was only this many ships that passed through, and now there's a 130% increase. You'll also be able to see who owns those ships that are coming through there. So there's more. Let's say that you're allied with the Procol, and the Procol go to war with the Graz. And while you're out there dropping scout drones and doing your thing, you notice that there's a system they have a scout drone in that has an increase of 400% of traffic increase over the last month. And of that 400%, almost 90% of the new ships coming through are all Graz ships. So if you want to help out the Procol, you can go to that system and cause some mischief and try and see if you can't get the Procol or the Graz to switch their routes. So maybe they're using that route because it allows them to build up for a sneak attack or something on the Procol planet or the Procol Empire itself. So if you disrupt that flow of ships, they have to kind of change their plans. So that's one thing you can do with them. You can also drop them off at planets. When you do that, you'll be able to see different information about the planet, who owns it, the population, all the different metrics for the planet, what the planet is producing, how many various resources that the planet has. You'll also be able to see information about the station, such as who owns the station, the amount of traffic to that station, what that station's selling, the price for those things, and a whole bunch of different other stuff. But a lot of this information I'm mentioning is going to be locked initially. You have to train up a skill called Star Reader that will allow you to unlock all this other information with scout drones. But some of the more basic things will be able to be seen right from the get-go. And the final place that you can leave a scout drone is an asteroid belt. And when you do it in there, You'll be able to see how many asteroids are in the belt, the ore makeup of the asteroid belt, and the size of the asteroids individually. So how you might use that is, let's say you find a belt in a system that has a lot of platinum in it. Let's say it's like maybe 90% platinum. There's maybe 30 or 40 asteroids in that belt. So let's say you mine out a few of them and you go and sell off that platinum, get a bunch of Zarn, and you decide, I'm going to go do some missions now because I'm tired of mining for the moment. And you said, well, I'm going to go mine some more platinum because I want to buy a new ship. Or maybe you just ranked up and you want to get a new class of ship or something. So you go back there and you realize when you get there that somebody's coming behind you, some corporation is coming behind you and mined out the entire thing, and there's almost nothing left. Now, one way you could have dealt with that is if you had a drone there, you could have seen that before you decided to go back to the 10 jumps to where that system is at, you could have looked in the map information and seen, okay, somebody came in there and screwed me over, so I'm going to go maybe over to this system that's closer and see if there's platinum here as well. So that's kind of a way you can use the scout drones for mining purposes. War drones are next. These are broken down into the different weapon classes. It's important to mention that these drones will not use standard weapons. They'll use specialty weapons that you probably won't be able to change. I'm still deciding whether I should have drones being changeable and whatnot. Bomb drones will also only be available to you when you're doing the planet bombing battle mode during the third stage of planetary battle. Essentially, I'll just add the bombs that they have will be added to your list of bombs you can select to use. Essentially, is how this will work. All the rest of these you can use whenever. You can send them out to fly around your ship whenever. Important thing to note though is that the drones will not be able to go to warp. So if you ever jump to warp and have drones out, you'll end up leaving the drones behind. But if there aren't any enemies around, there's a good chance if you go back to that location you warped from, if it's a specific place, or if you have it on a location marker on it or something to go back there, you'll be able to pick them back up. And finally we have tank drones. Tank drones are just what the name implies. They're supposed to be drones that can take a lot of damage and deal a lot of damage and be more of a protecting force for more fragile ships that are more easily destroyed, like electronic warfare ships or interceptors or things like that, command and control ships. They're actually essentially unmanned frigates and destroyers, tank drones are. Light and medium tank drones are basically frigate ships. Mediums have a little bit more health than lights do, though. And I'm toying with whether or not these will be ships that can be fitted with different types of weapons and whatnot. That may be a good possibility, though. Heavy drones will be destroyer-class unmanned ships. And all these the tank drones will have a lot of weaponry on them because they don't have to have some of the systems that are required for manned ships like life support. So they can have a lot more weaponry on them than or other types of instrumentation than on manned ships. These tank drones can also only be used by command ships, motherships, or titans. So on to mining drones. Mining drones are used for the purpose of mining. They will be able to, they'll have really quick mining cycles, but they also won't be able to mine too much ore. How much ore they'll be able to hold will depend on the size of the drone, as well as how long the mining cycle is. So, light drones will mine the fastest, but have the least amount of cargo space. Mediums will be in the middle of both. Heavy will have the most cargo space, but have the lowest mining cycle time out of the drones. And that brings us, finally, to the repair drones. There are three different classes of repair drones: armor repair drones, hull repair drones, and versatile repair drones. Armor and hull repair drones will only fix the specific type of health that they are named for. In other words, armor drones only fix armor damage, and hull drones only fix hull damage. And they also do it at a much greater efficiency than, or greater proficiency than versatile drones will do. Versatile drones can fix both armor and hull damage, but they'll be a little bit more expensive and also not quite as good at repairing the damage as these other two are. So you have kind of a choice to make whether to have to deal with multiple types of drones, one for armor, one for hull, or just to have a few versatile drones but have them repair less per time that they're able to repair. And how these will work is that you'll send them out and they'll do the thing, then they'll return to the drone hold or the cargo hold to be resupplied with material for continuing to fix the ship. Armor and hull drones will not return as much as Versatile will, and they'll be able to carry more material for both, or for their specific health that they're repairing. But again, Versatile will fix both armor and hull, whereas these will only fix one or the other. So that's all for drones. On to the mining section. So in the mining section, it'll be broken down into 3 different categories: attunement crystals, lasers, and strippers. Attunement crystals are essentially the different crystals that will be usable on mining barge lasers that will enhance the amount of ore that you're able to mine from an asteroid for one mining cycle. As you use the crystals, they will degrade, and if you are mining a type of ore that's not the type of ore that goes with the crystal, it's not a matching crystal for the type of ore you're mining, the crystals will still degrade. So it's important that if you switch from Pyrex ore to Methix ore, that you switch your crystals as well if you're using them. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money. Lasers are the specific lasers that only work for mining barges. Non-specifics are done in weapons. And strippers are strip miners, again only for mining barges. Modules. Modules are broken into 2 different categories: active and passive. So how this works is that an active module is a module that either consumes energy when it's turned on, or consumes energy when it's turned on and also when it's used. So, like for example, of the latter are weapons. Weapons have an initial power consumption on startup, and they also consume power every shot that they do. If they consume power with their when they are fired, some don't. Like for example, lasers and heavy weapons, I think, are both ones that would use. They both use capacitor. I guess, yes, railguns are too, because they use both ammunition and the capacitor. Missile launchers are an example of ones that do not use power when fired. Just the initial startup power cost. There are also modules that are active modules that will consume power while they're active. So once you turn them on, as long as they're on, they'll consume power indefinitely. Then you have the active modules that are like a one-time activation or one-use activation, or one use per activation, where you activate it, it drains the power it needs to charge up the module does its function, then the module shuts off. That would be a scanner would be an example of that. Whereas of the middle one, the one that uses power indefinitely, would be shield hardeners. Passive modules, on the other hand, are modules that do not consume power from the capacitor. They run off of primary or tertiary power, whereas the capacitor is charged by secondary power systems. So the active modules are broken down into the following categories: afterburners, electronic warfare modules, EWCM modules, repair booms, scanners, and shield hardeners. So afterburners are essentially just additional thrusters that can be put on your ship to enhance your ship's speed for a short time. They will drain power for as long as they're active. Electronic warfare modules and EWCM modules are the same as with the drones, except they're just installed on the ship instead. Electronic warfare modules will completely override EWCM drones, whereas EWCM modules will completely override electronic warfare drones. So if your enemy has a electronic scanner jammer for a drone, you can use the scanner modulation module to completely override the effects of that drone, because the modules are much more powerful than the drones are. They're also more costly, though. Most of these are the same type of module as the afterburners, where once you turn them on, they drain power. However, the one that's the hacker module is more of a weapon kind of thing, where you activate it for an initial charge cost, and then you have the energy cost per use of it. or the energy. So you charge it initially, and then once you use it, there's the continual energy drain until the task is done. So it's more of a hybrid between maybe a shield hardener type module and a weapon type module. The EWCM modules, they're all essentially active modules where they're draining power as long as they're turned on. Same with the repair booms are the same as with the drones. You have the armor and hull booms and the versatile booms. Armor and hull booms will repair damage quicker for their specific type. Versatile will do both types, but at a slower pace and for more energy costs. There's two different types of scanners. You have the cargo scanners and the mineral scanners. Using cargo scanners will 9 times out of 10 piss off the owner of the ships that you're scanning. The only two cases where this is not true is if you're allied with the owner of the ships, or if you're a member of the Talarath. Those are the only two cases where that will not make the owner of the ships angry with you. In some cases, if you don't have a very good relationship with the person you're scanning the cargo of, that ship will actually turn on you and start attacking. That'll be if you're in a negative relationship with the entity that owns the ship, though. Zero or positive relationships will just result in a drop in your relationship with that entity. Mineral scanners are used to scan asteroid belts to see what different types of asteroids are nearby. You'll have both the distance of the asteroid to where you're at when you did the scanning, and you also have a listing of the size of the asteroids in SG squared at the time of the scanning. So that'll allow you to see, which are the largest asteroids, or which asteroids have the most lucrative mineral for you to mine. And then finally, shield hardeners. Shield hardeners really are not meant for factory default, stock ships, factory default ships. In order to use a shield hardener for a frigate class ship on a stock ship, you have to have at least a battleship or higher because the energy requirements on these things are massive. What they do is they essentially pump much more energy into your shields, about 130% more times the 130% more energy into your shields to make them much more robust. So they don't actually increase the shield points that you have, but they drop the damage by a certain percentage that you take with the shield. So let's say you have a shield hardener that drops 50% of the damage. So you take 100 damage to your shields, that's only going to actually be 50 damage because of the hardener. Now it is possible to install a frigate shield hardener on a frigate, but you have to really trick out your frigate. You have to have, aftermarket, really expensive power system, and then an aftermarket, very expensive capacitor that has a very large capacity and a high recharge rate. But it's possible. But these are more meant for, your Rolls Royces of ships. Although you can customize your own ship, so it doesn't really have to be a really high cost ship. And in fact, the high cost ships will still be factory defaults, so you won't be able to install them on them anyway. So only for really aftermarketed parts, souped up ships, in other words. So that's it for the active modules. Passive modules, all we have is really ship enhancements. And these are essentially modules you can install in the low slots for your ship to increase various metrics for the ship. Such as your capacitor enhancements. You have the capacity enhancements, efficiency enhancements, and recharge enhancements. Capacity enhancements allow you to increase the capacity of the capacitor. Obviously, the efficiency enhancements allow things that drain power from the capacitor to not drain as much. So in other words, the power drain on the capacitor is lessened, made more efficient, so less power is consumed. While recharge enhancements allow you to increase the speed at which your capacitor is recharged. Cargo enhancements, just basic cargo enhancements. They increase the amount of cargo space you can use by installing basic systems like zero gravity generators or things that you can use to kind of maximize the packing space within your cargo hold. CPU enhancements, efficiency and power enhancements. Efficiency enhancements allow you to utilize less bandwidth per module that's installed, so you can install more things, while power enhancements allow you to add more bandwidth to your CPU for installing other things. Engine enhancements, we have two different categories here, subwarp and warp enhancements. For subwarp enhancements, you have navigation enhancements and speed enhancements. So navigation enhancements allow you to more quickly turn your ship to a new heading, while speed enhancements allow you to travel faster at subwarp speeds. Then you have warp enhancements, which are broken down into field enhancements and power consumption enhancements. Field enhancements also breaks down into field stabilization enhancements and warp conduit stabilization enhancements. I think this one, yeah, this one should be oh no, because it's by class, so I guess that works. Field stabilization enhancements allow you to form a stable field much more, a little bit quicker, so you can go to warp faster. While warp conduit stabilization enhancements allow you to stabilize the warp conduit you're traveling in, thereby traveling faster. Now, I must warn you that when you're using this one, it'll actually speed up your warp travel, so it will also drain power more quickly from your ship. That's where you need the power consumption enhancement. Power consumption enhancements will allow you to decrease the amount of power drain that your ship experiences at warp. Or I guess the capacitor experiences at warp. Then we come to memory enhancements. These include capacity and efficiency enhancements. Ah, jeez. So, capacity enhancements are enhancements that you can use to increase the amount of available memory you have for installing modules, whereas efficiency enhancements are used to make the modules that you're installing take up less memory space. Power system enhancements breaks down into capacity and efficiency as well. And same as with memory, capacity increases the amount of power you have available to your secondary systems for installing of modules, whereas efficiency is dealing with decreasing the amount of power that each module you install will take. Shield enhancements, system enhancements are capacity enhancements and recharge enhancements. Capacity enhancements will increase the amount of shield points your shield system has, whereas recharge enhancements will augment the speed at which the shield will recharge once damaged. And again, faster recharging means more drain on the capacitor. And then finally, weapon systems enhancements. I was going to say nuclear vessels. Another Star Trek joke there. Let's see. Efficiency enhancements breaks down to power consumption enhancements and targeting enhancements, whereas targeting expansions doesn't break down to anything. So for power consumption enhancements, this is dealing with the power consumption when the weapons are fired. So it lessens the amount of power that they use when fired. And targeting enhancements speeds up the time it takes for the weapon systems to target onto a target you've selected to target. Targeting expansions allows you to increase the number of targets that your systems can lock onto. And we're done with modules. On to planetary equipment. If I can close this damn thing. Alright, planetary equipment breaks down into colonization prefabs, orbital weapons platforms, planetary administration and colonization tools, as well as planetary shields. So what colonization prefabs are is they're essentially prefabricated buildings and packs that you can use to give you a little bit of an edge when you're colonizing a planet the regular way. They give you extra, essentially they're packs of like food and water that you can send with your colonists, and also prefabs for farms and other buildings that can be used throughout the colonization process to speed things up a bit. While not as effective as the colonization missions that can be done from planets, they are more effective than just going into a colonizing a planet without anything at all. Orbital weapons platforms include all the different weapons except for bombs, so pretty self-explanatory. The planetary administration and colonization tools break down into terraforming tools and management tools. For terraforming tools, you have atmospheric gas generators and scrubbers, bacterial decontaminants, fungal decontaminants, radiation scrubbers, and viral decontaminants. So atmospheric gas generators allow you to put certain types of gases into the atmosphere. The type of gas depends on what type of generator you have bought and are using. So there'll be a nitrogen generator, an oxygen generator, an argon generator, a carbon monoxide generator. And same thing with the scrubbers, except in reverse. They will take things out of the atmosphere. So you can use atmospheric gas generators to add oxygen and nitrogen to a planet that doesn't have much or any. Or you can use gas scrubbers to remove hazardous gases from the atmosphere so you can colonize the planet. On the other side of that, you can also use these as a weapon. You can use them to put carbon monoxide on a planet where that's inhabited by a race that's toxic to. Or you can use a scrubber to remove gases that are required for the current inhabitants to survive there. So they can be turned both into defensive or just regular tools or weapons, depending on how they're used. The decontaminants will clean up the use of bioweapons of those specific types. So bacterial decontaminants clean up bacteria-based bioweapons, fungal decontaminants clean up fungal-based weapons, and viral decontaminants clean up viral-based weapons. Radiation scrubbers are used to remove radiation levels from the planet, both naturally occurring or man-made. However, if the radiation levels are high because it's a natural occurrence, say like the planet is near a pulsar or is really close to a sun or something, or the sun is really emits a lot of radiation, like maybe on Haystrom from Mass Effect 3, or is that 2? No, it's 3. Then you'll have to have the radiation scrubbers on the planet full time. And that'll take up resources while they're activated. They also take up resources while they're active. So they'll cost you like a monthly fee or something to use, but you'll be able to survive on the planet. If the radiation is man-made or put there from war or nuclear bombs or whatever, maybe an accident of some kind, then you only need to have the radiation scrubbers there until the radiation has been cleaned up enough to be considered as a safe level of radiation. Then you can remove the scrubber and it won't cost you anything after that. So after terraforming tools, we have the management tools, and the only thing for that right now we have is the orbital supply depot. So what the OSD is used for is to essentially allow trading of resources or management of resources between planets. So if you put an ODS on 2 planets, let's say you have one planet that has lots of water, lots of fresh water, but doesn't have very much arable farming land. But you have another planet that has lots of arable farming land, but not very much fresh water. So what you can do is you can take the water from one planet, send it through the ODSs to get to the other planet, so they can use that extra water for farming, and then the extra food from the farming on that planet can be sent back to the other planet, original planet, first one, to feed that planet's population. And that's what the OSD allows you to do. And then finally, we come to planetary shields, which breaks down to planet type, and these are just shield facilities that you can put on your planet's surface to generate a planetary shield. Pretty self-explanatory. So, rigs. Rigs are also a relatively new thing I've decided to do, and it's also based off of EVE Online, something on there, but it's also slightly different. So how rigs work is that they require a certain number of slots of the other 2 types that are not being, not of the type that's being used. So for example, to explain that better, if you're going to put in a row slot lig to do some letter confusion there, low slot rig, you'll have to use a certain number of medium slots and a certain number of high slots. For mid-slot rigs, use a number of low and high slots, and for high-slot rigs, use a number of low and mid-slots. Now, the rigs can add between 1 and 2 new slots of the type that their names indicate to your ship. And also, once you get to rank 10 of a certain skill called Expert Rigger, you can also add an additional slot to your rig from that. So you have the potential of adding 2 to 3 slots per rig to your ship. So let's say you have a frigate ship and you want to just totally trick it out with lots of weaponry. Let's say it has 3 lows, 2 mids, and 3 high slots. Well, let's say then we can get high slot rigs that will fit into all your medium and low slots to add an additional 3 slots to your